Greetings, my friend.
Oh, hi there. My name is Prostetnik Vogon Jeffs, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Wonkaverse. That's right, we're going to be entering the
world of pure imagination
to discuss the slow death of Hollywood, embodied by a great movie, a terrible movie, and a pointless movie. Which is which? Well, you'll have to keep watching to find out.
Aren't you forgetting something?
Oh, right, yeah, this isn't my typical review video. It's more like a video essay.
No. Aren't you forgetting the secret word?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was close. I almost forgot. Thanks, man. It's time for the secret word of the week. This week's secret word is mismanagement.
now. Who's with me?
Let's get things started by covering the basics. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a story by Roald Dahl, published in 1964. It was turned into a movie in 1971, directed by Mel Stewart, and the following year Dahl released a follow-up, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. The first book was adapted once again in 2005 by director Tim Burton, and in 2023 we received a money-grubbing prequel with some loose ties to the deceased author's work.
What?
Now, you might be wondering why there's never been an adaptation of Great Glass Elevator.
I don't really know.
And that's because you haven't read the book. It's knucking futz. You would have to be crazy to try and adapt that story to film. I'm not saying it can't be done, anything is possible, but you'd have to be certifiably insane to try.
But that's not the point.
This is the point.
We're not really talking about the books in this video.
Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous. Don't be alarmed.
Anyway, the gist of the movies, the first two to be specific, is that there is a man named Willy Wonka who is the world's finest confectioner.
Willy Wonka began with a single store on Cherry Street, but the whole world wanted his candy.
And I know it's a ridiculous semantic argument, but I'm not calling him a chocolatier. There's a petty reason for this, which I'll get to a bit later in the video. But for now, I'll just point out that he makes chocolates and candies.
There's other candy too besides chocolate.
Which makes him a confectioner. Calling him a chocolatier implies he only works with chocolate, and I know it's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you're probably rolling your eyes right now, but just go with me on this one for fuck's sake, okay?
What are you talking about?
Right, so he's looking for an heir for his business and hides 5 golden tickets within his chocolate bars. Each ticket gives a child the opportunity to visit his factory and, unbeknownst to them, get the chance to become the lucky heir to his fortune. Charlie Bucket, and the only child amongst the 5 winners to be genuine and honest, wins Wonka's factory.
Run for it, Charlie! Run straight home and don't stop till you get there!
The 2023 prequel is the story of Willy Wonka trying to open a chocolate shop in a town run by a ruthless chocolate cartel. It's also the story of a young girl named Noodle being reunited with her mother. It's also about a seedy boarding house run by a couple of twits. It's about a lot of things. A few too many things, honestly. If you've read the book and seen the movies, you know that Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is more faithful to the Roald Dahl source material, for the most part, and perhaps more faithful in terms of aesthetics. But Stewart's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory feels closer in spirit, in my opinion. But I'm sure someone out there will disagree with me. Also, whereas Stewart's film feels like the story of Charlie and his family, with Wilder's Wonka acting as antagonist, Burton's version feels like the story of Willy Wonka, with Wonka's father acting as antagonist. And if we step back a bit, we can already see how these two films can be used as representations for the decline of Hollywood.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Obviously, both movies are similar because they are using the same source material, but in tone, in their overall presentation, they are wildly different. Stewart's world is whimsical and fun with sinister undertones. It takes the essence of the book and creates something truly magical. The story, while not 100% faithful to Dahl's book, is well-paced and clever and engaging. Burton's world, on the other hand, is dour and oppressive. The chocolate factory is uninviting and nightmarish, and yes, it's closer to the source material in a number of ways, except for the inclusion of an unnecessary backstory about Wonka's childhood. Some might argue that this version of the film is a clever subversion of the original story, making Wonka the childlike protagonist instead of Charlie. But I don't see it that way. I see it as Tim Burton needlessly over-explaining the origin of Willy Wonka in a remarkably Tim Burton way.
It sounds weird.
And this illustrates the point I'm trying to make. Older films, and those with more competent writing, didn't feel the need to explain every little detail. In the 1971 original, we were content with subtext and subtlety. We didn't need to know everything about everyone. We could interpret character through action. Gene Wilder confessed on a number of occasions that the only way he would take the part was if he was allowed to do his famous cane entrance. He believed that it set up an expectation with the audience. He believed that if the first thing we experienced with Wonka was a ruse, an act of deception, that we as the audience would never know whether he was being honest about anything. And it was the right call. It tells you everything you need to know about Wonka in one scene. He's a trickster. And it's that kind of character development that shows faith in the viewer. Stewart and Wilder knew that the audience was intelligent enough to understand the subtlety of that setup. But in 2005, we get the opposite. Burton isn't interested in letting the audience interpret the characters. He feels compelled to spell everything out, and learning about Wonka's origin demystifies the character. It sucks the magic right out of him. Instead of developing Depp's Wonka through behavior and action, the audience is spoon-fed his life story in a subplot that doesn't exist in Dahl's story. Hey guys, did you know that the reason that Willy Wonka is obsessed with candy is because his dad was a domineering dentist who wouldn't let him eat sweets? Whoa!
Cavities on a stick.
Likewise, in the 2023 prequel, we don't get any mystery or intrigue surrounding Wonka. The reason he wants to open a shop in the Gallery Gourmet is because of his mother.
My mom once promised that when I share chocolate with the world, she'd be right there beside me.
Yawn. And ultimately, this is all because Hollywood has been progressively dumbing down its content. They aren't interested in productions that make the audience think or wonder, because that won't appeal to the staggering number of idiots in the world.
Are you a dummy?
They need to produce brainless garbage that can be hoovered up by as many people as possible. And while we're floating around the land of idiots, let's talk about actors. I think that if we look at each film, we can see a genuine regression in talent. Now don't freak out, I'm not saying Depp is a bad actor. I'm not saying Chalamet is a bad actor. Both of them have had decent roles in other films that highlight their abilities. Depp in particular has had a number of top-tier performances in his career. But the Wonka performances seem indicative of the general direction of Hollywood movies. They get worse with each iteration. Wilder turns in an undeniably charming and eccentric performance as the Mad Confectioner. It's subdued and mysterious and extremely enjoyable to watch. He's an unreliable eccentric with a hidden bitterness towards the world.
Don't just stand there, do something! Help. Police. Murder.
Meanwhile, Depp's performance, while stunningly brave in commitment,
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
is f***ing horrendous. But hey, at least he tried something different. You've got to give him credit for that. But he wears the character's motivations and failings on his sleeve. It's a performance that dares the audience to not get it. He's Michael Jackson in a top hat with psychopathic tendencies. There's absolutely zero subtlety here. Fast forward a couple decades and we get Timothée Chalamet. That's the character. We don't get a young Wonka, we get Chalamet in a Wonka uniform.
My name is Willy Wonka, and I have come to show you a marvelous morsel. An incredible edible. An unbeatable eatable. The likes of which this world has never seen.
He's not acting, he's reciting lines.
How do you know that?
And it's what we see across the board these days. We aren't getting actors who understand or thrive on the art of acting. We're getting pretty faces that say words. You know it's bad when Winona Ryder is chastising her co-stars for their lack of interest in the industry or professional development. I mean, what? Winona Ryder? Like, I would absolutely understand Daniel Day-Lewis calling out his contemporaries.
Well, if it's in me, it's in you.
That guy's got every reason to be like,
Built up my hatreds over the years, little by little. I look at people and I see nothing worth liking. I can't keep doing this on my own. With these, people.
But Winona Ryder? I mean, that's like Pauly Shore criticizing other actors for not taking things seriously.
God, you sound like my mom.
But she's right. The actors we've been getting over the last couple of decades, with some exceptions that prove the rule, are by and large terrible at their jobs. And it's not just the actors, it's the writers, it's the producers, it's the directors. Now, I'll say this, and I think this is a backhanded compliment, but Freddie Highmore is a way better Charlie than Peter Ostrom. In fact, all of the kids in Burton's films seem like better actors than those in the 1971 original. But I think this is more of a societal condemnation than anything else. Sure, child actors in the aughts were better than child actors of the 70s. But at what cost? At what cost? Obviously, I'm exaggerating. Not everyone in the entertainment industry is partying with Diddy, but there are a lot of creeps in that business, and I don't trust any parent that drops their offspring in the lion's den like that. I'm sure some of them are very protective and careful, but they're playing with fire like your buddy Dave who keeps jumping over the bonfire while double-fisting beers. Dude's gonna slip on some wet grass and ruin the party, man. On the whole, the general public is fed up with the entertainment industry's Caligula-level debauchery. You can only hear so many stories about abuse and assault before you're just like, you know what? I'm not really interested in anything you're trying to peddle. Now, while we're on the subject of abuse, let's talk about the music in these movies.
I got nothing to offer but my chocolate.
Sometimes being faithful to the source material isn't the smartest move. Some things work better in print than on the big screen, and knowing what to use and what to leave on the page is the hallmark of a good director. Using Dahl's original songs may have seemed like a good idea at the time, but in practice this wasn't the case. The score for Burton's 2005 Creepshow is a forgettable, tedious affair, which pains me to say because it's a Danny Elfman score. But damn, not good.
Augustus Gloop will not be harmed. Augustus Gloop will not be harmed.
Not good at all. It turns out that while Roald Dahl was a great storyteller, he wasn't exactly a great lyricist. And when you're making a musical, that's kind of important. And sure, I'll admit that the 2023 prequel does fare better in the song department, but only marginally. The musical numbers aren't as annoying as Elfman's, but they are boring and forgettable. They feel like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory by way of a Panic at the Disco cover band. There's nothing memorable about any of it, which is probably why they felt compelled to include themes from the 1971 classic. You could argue that the inclusion of the Oompa Loompa theme and Pure Imagination are nods to the original movie, but they certainly have the stink of, we couldn't come up with anything better and we know this will make you less critical of our film. I remember a time when songs from musicals actually became somewhat popular. Hell, The Candyman and Pure Imagination are two direct examples. I know the musical landscape is completely different these days, but I couldn't name a single song or hum a tune from the 2005 or 2023 movies. They're just pure meh. And that's most likely got something to do with the dispersion of talent. Decades ago, if you had some talent and lived in North America, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, you were going to move to New York or Los Angeles. I guess Nashville too, if you were into country music. But it was basically Broadway or Hollywood. However, technology and a global economy have made it possible to give both of these cesspools the middle finger. If you've got talent and an internet connection, you're no longer at the mercy of movie execs or stuck-up stage directors. Most creatives these days have zero interest in bending over backwards for a gaggle of fake-faced industry suits. What we're left with is an industry that's incapable of writing catchy show tunes. I'm not saying all modern musicals are bad, but they are, more often than not, boring and forgettable. I'm looking at you, La La Land.
Look, the Oompa Loompas.
And can we talk about the Oompa Loompas, please? Why is Hollywood so dead set against hiring midgets these days? How did we go from a movie that employs dozens of midgets, and yes, I'm saying midgets. If you're gonna get all up in my ass about it, you can just f*** right off. It's not a pejorative, it's not condescending or insulting. Get a goddamn life. But seriously, how did we go from employing dozens of midgets, actually, you know what, this does feel kind of weird. Thanks, society. But how did we go from a film that employed dozens of little people to hiring one tiny dude with an awesome stage name, shout out to Deep Roy, to replacing all of them with Hugh Grant's head?
I don't like the look of it.
Listen, I appreciate diversity in media. I think movies and TV shows, especially those in a modern, real-world setting, should be representative of said setting. But I also think that everybody needs to take a pill about it too. calm the f*** down. If you're forcing diversity, if you're trying to hit a quota, you are the one perpetuating discrimination. Like, this really shouldn't be hard to understand.
A retard figured out.
If you've got an awesome actor lined up for a role, but you pass them over because of the color of their skin or their sex or some other immutable characteristic, well, that's discrimination. And inevitably, the overcorrection and fixation on these characteristics creates situations like this. The disappearance of the short ones. Was there some kind of little person purge? Does Peter Dinklage run a midget mafia of one? Please explain the problem with casting short people in the roles of short characters. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the obvious modern example of Snow White. Not only did the upcoming Disney train wreck remove the references to dwarves from the title, they removed the actual dwarves. Sure, they're trying to fix the blunder with some CG monstrosities, but that kinda makes it worse. We removed the little people because we thought it was discriminatory to include them as dwarves. So here, take this cast of diverse peoples of all shapes and sizes. Oh, what's that? You hate us now? Oh, okay, fine. Take these CG dwarves instead. Hollywood is an antiquated system. It's the new blockbuster video. It's a risk-averse industry that would rather preach heavy-handed political messages than make something with the potential to offend. Safety first. I mean, it's a story of greed, really. If I make something for some of the people, I get some of the money. But if I make something for all of the people, I get all of the money. Obviously, it doesn't work out that way.
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
That's just how they justify it. And what's safer than an established property? It's the primary reason we keep getting remakes and reboots and sequels and prequels. For one, they are known quantities. On the back end, Hollywood producers and investors are inclined to bankroll things that have a strong chance of making a profit. New IPs are risky. And on the front end, audiences are suckers for nostalgia. Hollywood is a business. If I make The Scrub Daddy and it becomes a multi-million-dollar success, I'm not going to follow it up with a perfume or a vaping device. No, I'm going to release The Scrub Mommy and The Big Daddy, and so on. Likewise, if I make John Wick, I'm not going to give up on that IP. I'm going to sequel that property into oblivion. I'm going to milk Keanu Reeves until he's a dehydrated husk of a man. And then I'm going to make a spin-off and run that into the ground. Wonka is a pitch-perfect example of this creatively bankrupt trend. It literally started out as glorified fan fiction. Warner Bros. Reacquired the rights to the character, and director Paul King wrote, with the assistance of Simon Farnaby, a quote-unquote companion piece to the 1971 original. It's not a direct prequel, it's a reimagined introduction to the character that borrows a select few elements to help lure audiences into a pseudo-Dickensian simulacrum.
Oh, no, you don't say.
But it's superficial. They've just taken the name of the character and some musical themes and slapped it on a movie that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with its forebear. It's a magic trick to drain your wallet and give you the feels. That's it. That's all, folks. And I'm not saying it's an awful movie, but it is pointless, and it exemplifies the problem with the industry. They think that all the audience wants is the icing. Screw the cake. We get a surface-level Wonka that has nothing in common with the character in the original film. Chalamet is dopey and magical, where Wilder was manipulative and intelligent. Charlie was earnest and awestruck, while Noodle is an inconsistent plot device drowned out by a sea of equally bland supporting characters. Wonka isn't a confectioner in the prequel, he's a chocolatier. And I know it sounds like a silly thing to dwell on, but there's a point here, illustrated by the song Pure Imagination. In the 1971 original, Wonka is a candy maker. Sure, he's famous for his chocolate, but he's all about imagination. He makes candies for every occasion. He makes candies that spark the creativity of those who indulge in his sweets. But the 2023 prequel fixates on chocolate, not only in what Wonka creates, but in the world itself. Chocolate is used like money. Chocolate is the be-all and end-all of everyone in town, which isn't very imaginative.
Yeah, no, I got that already.
It's just boring. I know I've meandered through a lot of topics in this video, and perhaps connecting the Wonkaverse to the downfall of Hollywood is a specious claim. I'm sure there are better examples that I could have used. But really, I just wanted to make a video about the Wonka movies, and it felt, to me, like they were representative of the direction of the entertainment industry over the past few decades. There's much more to the story of Hollywood's demise. I didn't even touch on the shift to streaming services, or the pandemic's effects on the theater business, or the impact of AI, or the rampant financial mismanagement. And I'm sure there are dozens of other factors that I haven't touched on.
There are many more important things. Many more important things. Offhand, I can't think of what they are, but I'm sure there must be something.
So feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Why do you think Hollywood is burning?
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
Do you see a way for them to salvage their business model, or are they doomed? That's all I've got for this week. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I said good day!